The next chapter is profit margin, and I'm just going to tack right onto this. And this has a little bit of math in it, but it's not anything to be intimidated by. It's very simple, and I'll get right to it. Profit margin is essentially a measure of profit in a relative sense, and relative means sort of putting it into some context of how much profit you made, but how much revenue you had to take in to make that profit. So I'll explain this with numbers because it's actually easier to show with numbers. So think about your revenue. You're selling something. You sell a product. Let's say you bring in $100. Now that's great. You brought in $100. You want to know, what is your profit? So how much did it cost you to make that $100? Maybe the thing you sold for $100, maybe it cost you $50 to produce it. And that's one scenario. I'm going to also do a different scenario right in parallel. Maybe it cost you $99 to produce that product that you eventually sold into the market for $100. You can tell, obviously, right off the bat, that in one case you're going to be making more profit. So in the first case, where it's $100 in revenue, $50 in cost, you've got $50 profit. In the other instance, you have $1 in profit. Now, the definition of profit margin is profit over revenue. Or, since profit is revenue minus cost, it's essentially revenue minus cost over revenue. So I'm going to use these numbers and plug it into here. So for the first example, my profit is $50 and my revenue is $100. So in this scenario, 50 over 100, I have a 50% profit margin. This is actually 0.5, but you multiply it by 100 to create a percentage. So you probably know what that math is. 50% profit margin. A lot of people just say margin. In the other example, we've got $1 profit. We've got the same $100 revenue. This equals a 1% profit margin. Clearly, this is a better situation for a business. You want to have more margin. It means you're making more profit for the revenue that you're bringing in, and a higher margin is usually an indication that you're making more per unit of sale than you would be otherwise. It's a relative term, like I said in the beginning. It gives you an idea of that actual profit. Saying a $1 profit or a $50 profit is helpful, but putting it into context of how much revenue you're bringing in to make that profit is a little bit more of a universal way of talking to someone about a business or to measuring a business. The percentage is a little more universal. So that's essentially profit margin. That's what he talks about in the chapter. There's not a whole lot else in there. He compares it to the term markup, but I'm not going to get into that in this video. So just remember, profit is revenue minus cost, and profit margin is revenue minus cost divided by revenue. Just a little more math. Hopefully not that scary.